So I guess we can get started. So thanks everyone for coming today. I'm glad to be back. I know that much. Last couple of meetups, I needed to have my eye poked and prodded with sharp objects. So good not to be doing that anymore. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing today, we do have a Twitter hashtag that you can speak your mind and inform other people of what we'll be learning today, which is LandDevSFTC. Today we have Anoop, who will be, Anoop, his name precedes him, who will be talking about OmniStudio for developers. And that sounds like a really interesting topic. But before we get into that, we're going to go over some community news. We did a bit of chit chat that's on the agenda, even though we did it already. Before we get started, of course, a big thank you to our sponsors, as always, BrightGen and Mobile Caddy, without whom we would not be having this Zoom meeting, and we would not be recording this for other people to view, which would be bad because then we would all be at home staring at a blank screen. Some news for this month. Dreamforce 2021 has been announced. She's pushing me. It's been announced. Registrations are open, so you can register. It is going to be virtual. It's going to be on Salesforce Plus. And if you don't know what Salesforce Plus is, it's basically a streaming service for business content on demand. It's kind of like Disney Plus for work, but it does not have one division, which makes it infinitely better than Disney Plus. We also have Slack content on Trailhead and an upcoming Slack certification that partners can now sign up for to try out. That's it's quite surprising how fast Salesforce brought that on board.
Oh, just a quick interjection there. So there's existing Slack certifications available.
Okay.
I can post some links for these. And at the moment, if you're a partner, I believe you can get a voucher code to get the certification preparation content for free. It's usually paid for. So yeah, I can pass the information along if anyone's interested in that and as a partner.
Thank you. And winter is coming. So winter 22, pre-release. We're gonna get it in our sandboxes in a couple of weeks. Then we go live in October. So if you're not ready, if you haven't read the patch notes and the release notes and made sure that you're not gonna break, then do make sure to test your sandboxes when the day comes. And yeah, we can finally start playing with functions. Have they said anything about dynamic forms for standard objects? I don't think I've seen anything. But
I haven't seen it in there, but dynamic interactions are in.
Yeah. Dynamic interaction. We're probably going to have some content about that closer to the release. And that's pretty much all we have for today. So Anoop, we're going to let you share your screen.
Cool. Thank you, Amnon. Let me now spend the next 5 minutes working out where the controls are.
Cool. While you're doing that, Anoop, I was just going to make sure everyone's aware that we'll be having a quiz after the presentation, and there'll be prizes for the people. I think probably first, second, and third. I like that idea. And I think the questions will be based upon the content of the quiz. So yes, make sure you stick around for that and pay attention.
Okay.
If you want to win a prize.
I think I'm sharing the right screen.
Looks like.
Yeah, good, cool. All right. Welcome all. It's nice to see you all here. Today I will be talking about OmniStudio and how you can use it to rapidly build and deploy digital-first experiences. My name is Anoop Jadhav. I'm a senior program architect at Salesforce, and that's my Twitter handle if you want to follow me. But before I begin, I just want to give a quick reminder that customers should base their purchasing decisions on products and services that are currently available. That out of the way. So what is OmniStudio? Salesforce OmniStudio is a suite of components and no-code / low-code tools that enables developers and admins to rapidly build digital-first and industry-specific experiences across multiple devices and channels. So let's start with the components at a very high level. So on the left, we have OmniScript, which is before I start with that, actually, OmniStudio is today. In the past, it was only available to Velocity customers, but now it's part of something called Einstein Automate, which provides OmniStudio and other capabilities like MuleSoft, Composer, Flow Orchestrator, and other AppExchange solutions to deliver an efficient end-to-end workflow platform. So yeah, if you it's on the Salesforce website. So if you Google Einstein Automate, you'll find out more about it. So yes, first component that I want to talk about is OmniScript, which is an easy-to-use declarative tool for designing complex business processes without code. So with OmniScript, you can create dynamic customer interactions. Most of them are like guided flows, which include steps. Think of it like dynamic visit that guide users through sales and service processes with seamless integration with to backend data sources. Next is FlexCards. I'll go into detail for each of these items, but I want to give a high-level overview of each component here. So next up is FlexCards, which is a tool that enables developers and/or admins to build customer-centric, industry-specific UI components and applications using the LWC framework. In fact, both OmniScript and FlexCards in the end give you an LWC component that you can deploy in an app builder or community builder. You also have the ability to, using something called Omni out, take those LWC components and host them off platform as well. Then you have DataRaptor, which is a very interesting, it's my favorite. It's a declarative transaction based extract, transform, load tool that runs natively on the Salesforce platform. There are three aspects to this. You have the extract, where you retrieve and transform data from Salesforce. Transform any data from one format to another. Typically, you would use that to format data from JSON to another type of JSON or JSON to XML, vice versa. And finally, save load, which is where you transform and save the data back into Salesforce without writing a single line of SOQL. DataRaptor is typically used as a data source for OmniScript or FlexCard. It's usually composed inside of an integration procedure, which is the next component. It's a server-side process that executes multiple actions in a single server call. What that means is, the way to look at it is, it's kind of a lightweight orchestrator where you can orchestrate multiple actions. You can retrieve data, write data, do a call out to a Salesforce endpoint or to an external endpoint, transform that data, and then save it back into Salesforce. Very lightweight orchestrator / ESP, which is native to the platform. Again, it's used as a data source for OmniScript, FlexCard, for an API or Apex. Then on the right-hand side, you have Interaction Console, which is a set of utilities and components to facilitate contact center flows. Then you have Omni Analytics, where you can identify trends at the process level. So you can use those analytics to say, are my OmniScripts performing well? Where am I losing the users? Where are users spending a lot of their time on which FlexCard or which step of the OmniScript, and so on and so forth. And then finally, you have a developer utility called IDX Workbench, which it's a DevOps tool that allows developers to deploy components or check in or check out components in the version control. It's built on top of the Velocity build tool, which is a CLI tool that works well with the SFDX client as well. Okay. Let me go back. This is another way of looking at the different components that come with OmniStudio. At the top, you have the digital experience layer that is delivered by OmniScript and FlexCards. Then you have the middle business process or service management layer, which is facilitated by the integration procedure and DataRaptor. And finally, you have the developer experience layer that uses the build tool and the DX Workbench. By the way, I forgot to say that if you have questions, please unmute yourself and interrupt me. if you have any questions. Yeah. Okay, cool. Moving on, so let's do a deep dive of the product capabilities. I will also try and do a demo just before this talk, as is typical. One of my demos broke, so I will at least try and show you something in an org where a few of these things are set up. So you get a feel for what is involved in building OmniScript or FlexCards or IP. So let's start with an OmniScript. So like I said, an OmniScript guides users through complex processes. You create an OmniScript typically for scenarios where a customer service agent wants to add a new customer, or an insurance agent wants to update a policy or create a quote or something like that. Or an end user, this OmniScript can be exposed to a community where an end user can complete a self-service interaction form. Like I said, it's a declarative tool, meaning created with clicks and not code. You can call Apex actions, but you don't need to if you can accomplish the task with just clicks. So to create the structure for an OmniScript, you drag and drop different types of elements, like you can add an action such to extract data or to send an email. You can also group items together. So this is an example of some of the forms that we've built. And here you can see the steps involved. So yeah, on the left, you have this, your coverage step. You select a coverage and you click next and you go to the next section. These steps can be optional. So based on what you've selected, we can skip a step. So you have conditional branching. You can also have conditional views within a step itself, where you can program and say, if the user selected X, then don't display the next set of questions or display the next set of questions. Hey. Yeah, okay. So this is what a OmniScript designer looks like. We will look at this as part of the demo, but I want to give you a very high-level view of what that designer looks like. So on the top, you have the header, which captures the type and the subtype for the OmniScript. Then you have the navigation panel on the left side, where you can see the different steps that we've created and different controls and entities we've added, like a DataRaptor and integration procedure action. And number 3 is the canvas, where you drag and drop these controls. Number 4 is the build tools, where you have these different sets of tools available. Properties panel, where you can set the property for each of the control that you drag onto the canvas. And then a setup panel, which has a high-level setup elements, which we'll look at. And finally, preview. You can do the preview in 2 themes. You can, as you can see in the canvas, you have the ability to select a theme, which could be Lightning or Newport. So Newport was a theme that was developed. It's a proprietary theme that was developed by Velocity before it was acquired by Salesforce. So you can switch between the 2 themes. Okay. Next up is FlexCards. So FlexCards are typically used to display contextual information. So if you wanted to create a dynamic view that is an LWC component, but you don't like JavaScript, and you want to display, and you don't want a very fancy complex page, you just want a contextual information where you have like an at-a-glance format, and you just want to provide access to some tasks and data within a page, then you would use FlexCards. You would use the FlexCard designer to create the FlexCard component, which is an LWC component. Then you can embed that component anywhere where LWC is allowed. So typically, FlexCards are the beginning and endpoints for customer interactions. So you would see them on the home page, and then you would click an action on the FlexCard that would then launch OmniScript or some other process. FlexCards can also display data from multiple data sources. In one card, you can have data from an S object or multiple S objects, or you can have data from an S object or from an ERP system. So like I said before, integration procedures can make callouts and get that data and transform it. So if that's a source for a FlexCard, then you could get data from anywhere that supports a REST API interface. So FlexCards also have a what you get interface, just like OmniScript. So you have that editor, you control the layout and styling, and the actions are relevant to the context of the card. So it kind of inherits or is aware of the context where it's embedded. FlexCards can be embedded inside other FlexCards. They are also we can also embed FlexCards inside of an OmniScript. You can have flyouts for FlexCard. What that means is when you click an action, you can have another FlexCard fly out in a modal form in front of another to provide additional information. Yeah, and they have multiple states, so they could be in read state or edit state, depending on the context and the action that the user performs. Okay, that's an example of a of customer header data for Sophia, and it just displays. And this is all made without any custom code, so you just drag and use the FlexCard controls to create this view. So at the top, you have the at-a-glance information. At the bottom, you have the actions that you can perform. So each of these actions could either be a Salesforce record page, or it could be an OmniScript that you can launch. So for example, I could say update address. For whatever reason, I want to control that process of launch an OmniScript that could then be hooked up to Google Maps to search for the address. Or Google Maps address service, update that and come back to the FlexCard. Okay. And this is a view of the FlexCard designer. It's very similar to the OmniScript view, but with less controls and elements because we don't need all of the controls that we would typically have for an OmniScript. Mainly, we won't have step function here because we're not stepping through anything. It's just a very much, most of the times, read-only view of information within a context. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. Okay. And then DataRaptor. So like I said, DataRaptor is a mapping tool that, or an ETL, native ETL tool that allows you to read, transform, and write Salesforce data. So there are 3 types. Well, technically there are 4 types, but it's extract, transform, load. There is an additional type called turbo extract, which is a high performance version of extract if you're just reading data from one single S object. But for our purposes, yeah, just let's kind of put them in those 3 buckets: to extract, transform, and load. So extract is simple. You read data from Salesforce objects and output it as a JSON or an XML. Transform, like I said, allows you to transform data from one format to another. Typically, the way you would use transform is you've got different steps in an OmniScript or in an IP, and you would say, take the output of one step or previous DataRaptor and transform it into a format that the next step expects it. So that's where you would then insert a DataRaptor transform and do the transformation in there. And finally, load, where you can save the data from JSON or XML into any of the Salesforce object. All 3 types support formulas as well, so you can create some complex formulas if you're familiar with other Salesforce tools that have formulas. It's you'll be at home using the formulas with DataRaptor. Right. Just going to check. Can you guys hear me? Am I still live? It's very quiet. So last time I did this,
we hear you just fine.
Yes.
Don't worry.
All right. Good. Good. Fantastic. Next up is integration procedure. So integration procedure is a declarative server-side tool or process that can execute multiple actions. I think it's easy to explain this with an example here that I have on the screen. So over here we have a Velocity OmniScript or OmniStudio OmniScript. We haven't updated the terminology everywhere. OmniStudio OmniScript would call a integration procedure, and here we are doing a transformation first from JSON to XML, and then maybe we are doing an HTTP action where we are calling an endpoint, then getting that data, again doing a transformation, and then probably doing a load in Salesforce by inserting a new record, and then possibly after that we are sending a notification email, and then finally ending the process and returning that JSON response back to the OmniScript. So again, most cases, you don't have to write any code, but you may choose to call an action. That's an Apex action that does complex logic for you. But again, these are all drag and drop WYSIWYG. You can build all of this using drag and drop WYSIWYG tools. An Omni IP can be called from an OmniScript, from an API, Apex method, and can also be a data source. Like we said, it can be a data source for FlexCard. You can invoke IPs from batch jobs, REST APIs, and even Salesforce flows. So if you have an IP and if you have a flow, you can invoke an IP from a flow as well. All right. Okay. Then we have the interaction console. These are utilities and some common components that facilitate the contact center flow. I think of them more for accelerators, apart from the interaction launcher, which is very interesting. So contact center agents use the interaction console to display a full view of the customer and perform some authorized actions, right? So as part of IC, you get some reusable components like the customer profile, which is a set of FlexCards that give you the high-level contextual information about the customer. That's what it is. But you can also choose to build your own FlexCard or edit the FlexCards that are provided out of the box to suit your needs. Then the next component that it provides is the customer story, which is almost like a timeline view of all of the actions and edits that have happened against the customer record. So if there are any information or any event performed against that customer record is changed, it will show you a timeline view of that customer story. And finally, the interaction launcher enables an agent to launch a search that starts the customer interaction. So think of this as a IDNV, identity and verification component in a way where the agent can launch that, ask the customer, if the customer is on the phone, ask them for the date of birth, first line of address, perform that search securely. So this comes out of the box. You can configure this yourself. You can also choose to completely rewrite the whole interaction launcher logic to suit your needs, but most of the times you should be able to build what you need based on the out-of-the-box stuff that's provided as part of the OmniStudio. Yeah, the console displays only the data and transactions that a caller is permitted to see as well. Okay, so that's interaction launcher, and now Omni Analytics. So Omni Analytics is a tool that allows you to do analysis of your implementation in a way. So you can use this to understand your business performance. You can identify trends at a process level. So another way of looking at it is that you can track user interactions to answer questions like how many users who began a purchasing process completed, right? Where are we losing users in the flow? So you could have 10 steps as part of your OmniScript. You want to know where are they spending their time, on which step they're spending most of their time, and where are we losing users in that flow? Are some steps too slow to load or too hard to understand? So you get all that kind of, you're able to capture all that information using Omni Analytics and do data analysis on it. Specifically, the data that it collects is like stuff like clicks per product, clicks per UI action or impression, percentage of OmniScripts completed, or even percentage of OmniScript steps completed as well. And what's the load time for cards, OmniScripts, and OmniScript steps. So you get that analytics using this component. And the way this works at a very high level is you have data from OmniScript and cards going into tracking components that can then be fed into your native Salesforce reports, or you can also feed this into any of your third-party analytics. So it's agnostic in that sense. You can send that data to any component that will do the analysis for you. And finally, the developer experience, where we've got the IDX workbench and the build tool. If you're familiar with SFDX, you know what the build tool does. In the industries previously known as velocity world, what happens is when you create an OmniScript or a FlexCard or an IP, it is saved as a data pack. So when we update a Salesforce object, it's stored as metadata, which is XML format. But in the velocity world or industries world, it's saved as a JSON in a JSON format called data packs. And the build tool gives you a command line utility, which is the build tool is built using Node.js. It gives you a command line utility to check in and check out these data packs in version control, deploy them from one org to another, do comparison between the changes as well, especially if you're using the workbench, it has the visual tool. The thing to note here is that the build tool is 100% compatible with SFDX. So you should be able to stitch together the SFDX process that you have and the IDX build tool together to have a unified deployment process as part of your CI/CD tool chain. Okay. Along with that, the build tool also gives you certain tooling around profiling performance for OmniScript and integration procedures. Yeah, so you can also run that. And finally, I want to show high-level view of where all of this sits. I mean, you have at the bottom, you have the integration layer, MuleSoft, then you have the Customer 360 platform and the Lightning platform as well. OmniStudio kind of sits on top of this, and it has all the components that we talked about. It also has certain industry-specific apps that's shown here, which is loyalty management, decision table, rebate management that are applicable for certain industries. And then you have the industries clouds that sit on top of this. And what that means is that you have more apps and specialized solutions, for lack of a better terminology, that are available to you when you buy an industry-specific cloud package. And then you have Tableau CRM. So what that means is that all of this is 100% native Salesforce. So you should be able to do your analytics using Tableau, and it's compatible with Community Cloud for customers and partners. Okay. And this is an example of a complex real-world implementation that we've done for a telco customer, where we built this OmniStudio step. In the first step, we are checking for local availability through an IP. Then they can select an option, then provide billing data. Again, we are calling out through an IP to an external system. You can do credit check, and finally schedule an installation with the third-party application like ServiceMax. Okay, I think. Yeah, after this demo. So if you want to learn more, there is an OmniStudio trail. I've also got a link for where you can request a DE developer edition org with OmniStudio installed if you want to try that. And finally, I've written a bunch of blog posts on the Architects blog, where if you want to find more industry-specific view of OmniStudio, you can go and read there. Okay, before we go to the demo, any questions?
Yeah, I have one question, if I may.
Sure.
Is it possible to create your own FlexCards with LWC?
It's the other way around. You would create, so you can create your own FlexCards using the FlexCard designer, which is then deployed as an LWC. So you can create an LWC component. What you get at the end of it, both OmniScript and FlexCard are LWC component generators in a way. They're like factories to create LWC components. So at the end of it, you get an LWC component.
Can you then edit that component, Anu?
Yes.
I know you shouldn't, but can you mess with it?
You can mess with it.
Okay.
You shouldn't though, but yeah, you should be able to. You can take that component. Like I said, you also have the option using something called as Omni out, take that component and even host it off platform, make it work off platform. Yeah.
I had a question about IDX Workbench. Is that a real product now? Because it was not yet available back in Trailhead.
Cool. As far as I know, yes. At least it's updated in the docs where I can see it. I've not used Workbench. I've used the CLI build tool so far, and I've used a partner product which I won't mention here, which does support Velocity and Salesforce deployment. So I've used these build tool CLI, but as far as I can see, it is GA, at least according to the docs.
And my question is, those DevOps partners have spent a lot of time adding support for Velocity metadata. Is that no longer required? Do I just need IDX Workbench and I don't need to buy another product to deploy my FlexCards and OmniScripts, etc.?
So I think the real question here is, what's your CI/CD strategy? Do you need to buy these third-party products to support your CI/CD? Probably not. Can Workbench do the job? Yes, but Workbench is a desktop app. You probably want, if you want automated CI/CD with SFDX, you will end up using the CLI build tool, and you'll write custom scripts that stitch together the what DX build tool does and SFDX to synchronize that deployment. So if you were to, it's doable. A lot of the customers have done this. I've been involved in a project that has implemented this successfully, where we've got SFDX and the build tool working together to do that CI/CD deployment with Jenkins or Cumulus CI or any of the other tools. What you get from the third-party providers who support both SFDX and this is that you don't have to do that implementation or work to build that CI/CD pipeline, right? I mean, they have their own pros and cons. Every partner is different. You know, they have their own prescriptive way of doing things. But as long as you're happy with that, and as long as it works for your use case, then you don't have to do it because it's already built for you.
Okay, thanks.
So sorry, just to go on a little bit more of that. So thinking of like DevOps Center that Salesforce is releasing, will that support Velocity?
Don't know.
Because I've worked with Velocity in the past and had to use the build tool and found it a little bit clunky. And so we actually ended up going for a third party to do the deployments because of the complex structures we had. And so I just went with obviously the Velocity being bought by Salesforce and sort of now that this is being marketed as an individual product, and outside of that, the build tool might be, and especially if you're going down the route of non-code devs, you know, pushing it as that, pushing them down the build tool way to deploy stuff is not very friendly. So I suppose. So.
Matt, I know DevOps Center Beta doesn't have anything, nor does it have anything for CPQ deployments, nor does it have anything for field service lightning. So I think you can assume when it's GA, it won't have it.
Yeah, I suppose for me to like promote this product, it's that little bit it's a little niggle for me at the moment. I'm thinking it's the deployment side of it. That's just a bit of feedback. Sorry, wasn't really a question, but
yeah, it's fair. Yeah, noted. But I don't know. To your original question, I don't know the answer to that. Whether the Salesforce DevOps Center will support this, and when it will support it. If it does, it will. Yeah. Cool.
Well, they're all good questions, Matt. I think. Aren't they? I've got a couple more here for the chat that I've picked up. Hopefully, I haven't missed any. It's from Joey. Am I correct that this is available already outside Salesforce Industries customers? Yes. They just need to buy Einstein Automate package.
Yes, so Einstein Automate, and possibly there might be a few more product suites coming out which will have OmniStudio attached to it, which will be independent of any Industries package. So yeah, that's as I said earlier, and you can actually Google Einstein Automate and find out more information about it. Einstein Automate comes with OmniStudio, MuleSoft Composer, Flow Orchestrator, I think it's something else, but I don't remember right now. But yeah, those are three main tools that are packaged together.
Cool, thank you. And then there was a question here from, I think it's T-Hamp. DataRaptor's a third-party app. I guess they were, and now they're not. Is that?
So DataRaptor was a tool built by someone. Also asked what's Velocity. So Velocity was a AppExchange company that a partner who built industry-specific solution, and their way of doing this was to build these packages, which were both an accelerator, but also had things like industry-specific data model and tools that helped customers build industry-specific solutions. So these tools are now part of OmniStudio, DataRaptor being one of them. So all of these tools are linked. So you can use DataRaptor on its own. So you can build a DataRaptor. It provides you with the REST API endpoint. You can call that endpoint and use it. But typically, what you would do is you would create a DataRaptor and use that as a data source for FlexCard or OmniScript. Usually, you would wrap that DataRaptor inside of an IP, where the IP, I mean integration procedure, and the integration procedure will do some sort of orchestration, like it will call one DataRaptor to get the data, another DataRaptor to do the transformation, third DataRaptor to do the load and save. So IP does that orchestration. It's all server side and it's all fast. That's how you use it.
Cool, thank you. I think that answers the question. And the last one I made, that was from Richard about the OmniStudio deployment stuff. I think we covered that. Cool. I don't think I've missed any in the chat. If I have, then yeah, feel free to shout out now. I think it's a good time, right?
Okay, I'm gonna. If there are more questions, we've got more time, right? So I'll just do the demo very quickly. Stop share. Right. Let's see. And everybody see this screen?
Yeah, well, we can see that.
Okay. Right. So just before this call, like I said, I was trying to make this demo work, but it didn't work. But anyway, so this is an org where we have the OmniStudio stuff installed. It's a demo org, so all of the data here is not real, but you can go and find OmniScripts, cards, and DataRaptors and everything just by going to the app launcher. So I've opened an OmniScript here. So actually, let's start from the beginning. I could go to the OmniScripts tab. And that'll load all of the OmniScripts that are available. Some of them are active, others are not. Some of them are LWC enabled, others are not. And the history behind this is originally when Velocity built OmniScript, they used Angular to do the complex logic in OmniScript. So you would be creating Angular components, I think. Yeah, Angular components when you create OmniScript. But then Salesforce launched LWC, and then they switched towards LWC. If you are a Velocity customer, you would still be able to create non-LWC OmniScripts. But I believe if you're an Einstein Automate customer and you're taking OmniStudio outside of Velocity packages, you'll only be able to create LWC-enabled OmniScripts, which is good because that's the future. That's what they've already said that they're deprecating support for the Angular OmniScripts. Okay, so these are the list of all of the demo OmniScripts that we have in here. You could have multiple versions, but at any one point, you could only have one version live. So if you're working on something and then someone else wants to change this, but doesn't want to affect your work, they can create a new version and work on that. And then you can potentially merge the two changes somehow. But I think there's that provision. Or rather than making changes to just one thing, you could always create new versions when you have new features to build on top of this. Okay, so I've got an OmniScript open here. And as we can see, this is the canvas where we can drag and drop items. I can change the theme to Lightning to new port that's applicable when we do the preview. So in the beginning, I've dragged this step, which is the set values step, where I'm just hard coding some values. I'm saying the element name is this, transaction type, and the value is code. I'm just setting, think of this as setting variables at the beginning of a program. Then I've got a DataRaptor extract action. So that means that I'm extracting data from somewhere. And it will take that data, send it to the next one, which is read account. So I'm getting the context type here. So I need to just find where it is. So if I look for this DataRaptor, I can actually go to that DataRaptor from here. Very handy link. Yeah, so if I go to the, I lost it. Yeah, like add code and DataRaptor. So this is the DataRaptor, which is extract record type. And over here, I'm extracting data from account and then getting information from contact as well. And then the output here is I'm saying account type. The JSON path for that would be map it to context. And then from the contact, get the type and map it to context. And if I were to preview this for this ID, oh, it doesn't give me anything. So we find an account. So this is the query that it created. And you can see it automatically adds a limit here for that query, but it didn't find any result for it. Let me try another account. Go back here. Let's try that. Nope, I don't have the data set up. So it doesn't have a context, I suppose. So if I go back to the quote, and then I've got another DataRaptor, which again, if I want to investigate, I can just click on that. That'll then load that item over here. I'm saying, give me an account for ID equals the incoming ID. And the output is all of this data, map it to this. And the way this works is you say, okay, first name, map this to the output JSON, which is policyholder insured person first name. That will then show the output like this. So it creates the JSON for us, and it has a specific format that you need to follow, but it takes that first bit before the colon and makes that as a parent node, and then the second bit after the colon and makes that as a child node inside of it. Then whatever you get back here, it'll just map it to this and you'll get the value here. When you call this from a OmniScript, you will get that JSON back, and then you can use that JSON as part of this. It's then passed on to the next step or next element in the row. And again, we're doing something similar. So let me go here and try previewing this and see if that works. Hopefully that'll work. There you go. I've got this policyholder. For some reason, it's only giving me the account ID here, as opposed to all of the other output. Maybe that's because it's blank, possibly. So yeah, but this is the query that it created based on what we provided to it. Okay, so if I go back here, then we have our first step, which I said is the step that we, it's like a step in a wizard or in a form where you can, again, drag and drop components from here, which could be a display component like line break or text block, could be input that you want to capture, like date, time, email, a multi-select pick list, and all of that. So you can drag and drop those here and apply and capture the values. It will take those values that the user enters here, and again, you might have guessed it, pass it as JSON to the next bit where you can then do something. In this case, we are using another OmniScript inside this step, which is a reusable driver input and reusable vehicle input, and we'll see it in preview how that looks. And then we are using an integration procedure. And if I go to that integration procedure here, so IP, like I said, is a lightweight orchestrator that that can do multiple extracts, transforms, and saves. So in this IP, we are merging the driver and discount information as a list action. Then we are doing a transform action on the JSON that we get and just sending that back. So it's a very simple IP where we are doing a merge action and then a transform action and sending it back to the OmniScript. I won't go through all of them, but hopefully you get the idea. So we have one step here, which is the intro step. We do a bunch of things here. Then we have another step, which is the configure step. And finally, confirm the quote. This is an OmniScript for getting an auto quote. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And this is what it does. So let's look at the preview. All right. So you'll see this data JSON update as we update this here in the preview. And I click next. But if I change that to new port, that will change the styling here. And this is the Velocity proprietary new port theme. But let's go back to Lightning. Okay. Click next. I'm going to use this handy button to autofill the information. And as you can see, when you fill in the information, the data JSON gets updated here. Let's set the start date to be some date in the future. Do I still have you guys?
Yeah, we're still here with
you.
you.
Good. Okay. Yeah, please interrupt me if you have any questions. So I've clicked next, and I'm on the next step here, which is who will be driving your cars. And then I've already got Roger Moore here, so I will save that. I could add another driver as part of this quote. At this point, I could say plus and add another driver. I won't do that. Then click next. Then I've got a discounts step where I'm saying, okay, are you eligible for any discount? Are you a full-time student? Are you active military? If I add any one of those, then this is an example of conditional input. So I've selected active military and it showed me, okay, sorry, I selected full-time student, it showed me a input box here that I can add more information. And it depends on what option I've selected. So if I select this, hopefully, yeah. So it will then give me a different set of options here. I'll click next. Then I'll add a car here. And this is where it fails because it's trying to get some information from an external endpoint just to show that integration bit. But it's not working because it's telling me that I don't have the right I don't have the right key for making that call. So it's failing here. But imagine that if this worked, I would go to the next step and configure it and see the confirmation screen. And then when I press save, it will create a quote for me. Okay. I will stop the demo here because I know it's not going to work. I've tried making it work. Any questions? Cool. That is it. I'm just thinking what else I can show you. Oh, there's a chat message. Thanks, Joey, for answering the questions in the chat. All right. And if there are no more questions, I'll stop sharing the screen.
Oh, there's a question in here. Could, from Tiam, sorry. I think FlexCards where we used in OmniScript. If you an example of the FlexCards app, was that what you were putting down where you could add the text box and the display items?
Right. Okay. So no, you can. I forgot to show you the bit where you create the LWC and how you use that. Right. Let's share that again, and I'll also try and share a FlexCard example. So over here, you have the option to download the LWC that you can download and use, or download an off-platform LWC. But in most cases, you probably won't download an LWC. You would just probably want to work out how to launch this. Can you see this modal text modal box that shows how to launch the OmniScript?
Yeah, showing up.
Yeah. So I think they give you an example of how do you do this. This is the URL for this OmniScript, and you can use this URL to then go to the OmniScript and make it work. Before I do that, let me think I don't need to, I'll just deactivate and activate it one more time. Okay, and activate this version. And what it's doing is compiling this, creating an LWC for us, deploying that LWC so that we can use it. I hope everybody can hear the wait music. I can. All right. So I go to how to launch, and I'll take this. So it also tells, gives you two separate URL links for Lightning and Newport. It also tells you how to do the, if you want to use it as a Aura wrapper, how to do that, yada, yada. Okay, let's try this. I'll try this. It will be great success, I'm sure. Ah, there you go. So this is what you're seeing here is an LWC component that OmniScript created, and you can use all of this. So I'll just do the autofill thing, set the policy start date. Next, yeah, next. I want to select that. Oh wait, I should have selected an automobile. Ah, there you go. Even though I didn't select any vehicle, it still gave me a premium price. You know, this is my premium, this is the tax, and it's the total. Okay, and then I'll click next. Yeah, because I think I did not provide any vehicle type. It just says no data provided. But it seems to have created a quote. So let's click on it. Ah, there you go. Because I did not provide any vehicle information, it failed, which is as expected. Good stuff. Yeah, so that was OmniScript. I also have a FlexCard open somewhere that I can demo. That's the one, I think. Ah, so this is the FlexCard designer. And again, similar, you have version, status. I've cloned this from this FlexCard, so it tells me, you can also mark this as a child card. So if you want to embed one FlexCard inside another FlexCard, then you can mark this as a child card. I don't think you get any other theme with FlexCards. You used to, but not anymore. So it only supports Lightning, which makes sense because the most likely place where you deploy a FlexCard would be in an app builder. So it has to be compatible with that theme. Yeah, I think this FlexCard has a text element. It has status here. What does this do? So let me see if I can break this. So add text. Oops. Oh, I have to
You need to deactivate
it. That's it. Thank you. Then I will drag this text block here. I think if you're familiar with front-end dev, it has the 12-column grid layout, so you can extend this. You can have multiple text fields in the same rows. And here I'm going to say London Doug field. Okay. And I'm going to change this to London Doug is the best user group. Yeah, and I can apply styling as well, although I have not tried this before, so I won't try it. But yep, I've just dragged text element here, and next to it, I could drag a custom LWC inside a card as well, display a data table. Let's try and do a field. Why not? Okay. Now, when you drag a field, it assumes that you want it to be as wide as that page. But if you reduce this, it automatically then moves itself to the next available grid. So, yeah, okay. Which field do we want? So let's say type placeholder. Specify the field type. Just gonna say text, and do the field to display type. There you go. And I can enter my own label here. Let's try that. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, now that we've done that complex implementation, let's do a preview. It's very helpful. It just tells you it's almost done. Okay. Okay, so I may have to add a test parameter for this. So let me get the ID for this account record and find the, there you are. It's not match any quotes because I haven't added any test parameters. Yeah, that's the record ID that it expects. So I'm gonna add this, and there you go. I've made changes to this and it's displayed here. Cool. Yeah, I don't know what the original question was, but I hope that answers the question. You can use this flex card. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the question was, okay, after I've activated this, it will do a similar thing that it did with OmniScript. It will compile it into an LWC, deploy it. Okay, and then you have these publish options that you can use to, you can do additional things in here, like add an SVG resource, which will become an icon. Yeah, I think you can take that. This is where now my lack of LWC will come into play, but you can add this to the Lightning bundle. Save that anyway. Okay, close, do that, and go back here. And you have the option to download the LWC, do the same thing, or use the publish options to use that to display it in the app page, home page, record page. And you can go to the app builder and you will see this as an option in the app builder that you can then drag and drop as an LWC component. Makes sense. You can also take the community page and community default option so that it's available in the community builder as well. And that's how you would display a flex card on a page.
If I was an ISV and I wanted to use this to build my latest, greatest car insurance application, how could I distribute this to customers?
I don't know. I don't believe you can as an ISV today, because you have to remember the path that this tool took to be as part of the core platform. It was a managed package and now it's part of the core, and it's still not available by default as flow. I guess doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, this creates an LWC. So you won't have to create unless, maybe you can provide a data pack. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit, just thinking this through. You could provide a data pack as part of an ISV that can then be used by the target org if they have OmniStudio installed and they have a license to edit the data pack. Potentially that's an option, because another way of doing this is for both OmniScripts and FlexCard is you can import. You have this import option where you can browse the data pack, which is a JSON format, and then it'll just be available to you. So potentially you could deploy a data pack, but I'm not 100% on that.
So Azure, did you just run an org and have customers subscribed for access to that single org? Is that how you did it at Azure?
I know at Azure we so it's my previous company where we implemented this. It was not a ISV solution. At Azure, they had their own org where they implemented everything using Salesforce and Salesforce Industries, and then the brokers would access it via portal. So it was not a distributed solution. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Anoop. How does it work with both the FlexCards and the OmniScript? How does it work with translations?
How does it work with translations? There is both for FlexCard and OmniScript, there is support for internationalization just to an extent. I don't know. I think it should work. I mean, according to the documentation, there is support there, but I think
I can add a bit of flavor to that. So effectively, when you create an OmniScript, as you can see here, you've got language. When you create an OmniScript, you're defining a translation, well, a language rather. So what you can then do is create a new version of the OmniScript or FlexCard, change the language, and then go into that card and actually change the content. Where it differs from Salesforce Core is that you're not going into the back end and changing it as a label. You're actually going into the OmniScript itself and changing that language. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So are they saved as different versions in the same?
They are indeed saved as different versions. Yeah. So you would have to maintain multiple versions.
Cool.
Okay.
To be able to display, or for a user to be able to run an OmniScript or FlexCard, do they need a license assigned to them, like in industries like?
No, because at the end of this, you get an LWC component. So you don't need a license to run it. You probably need a license to build all of this. But having said that, it is all intertwined with the functionality that's available, I suppose. So maybe you do. It's a licensing is never clear cut. So
can I answer that one as well?
Oh, go for it, Chris.
This has been recorded, so I will give the official answer. You absolutely need a license. Whether or not Salesforce, the technology will allow you to run it, is by the by. You need a license to actually run on an OmniScript.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? I'm looking at the chat.
Yeah, there's one here about the best practice for debugging FlexCards and OmniScript IP. Can you talk to debugging processes at all?
Yeah, I can show at a very high level what's involved. So, go to output. Okay, so if I go to the preview stuff here, so you have the data JSON that tells you what JSON is created and what data is being saved in that JSON. So I will go here and select these things, and automatically save that JSON information for me. Now the stuff where it was failing, I said, I'll go next. Okay, everything's fine. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want this. Okay. I'll add this. Okay, so this is where it was failing, where I was trying to add an automobile, but I couldn't because I'm not able to select this or this or this. I mean, it's not doing anything. So if I wanted to see what's happening here, then I would go to one of these and work out where the problem is. So it's probably not that one. Okay, get drivers to discount. Not that one either. Request data. Should show in one of these things that this is not working. So let me see where. Invalid. Yeah, the API key isn't invalid. So that's the option, but I'm trying to find out where it is. For some reason it's not showing me here. I'm not looking at the right thing. Was able to find this in a classic designer, but let's see. Get years. This is the one. Sorry, so I was not looking at this. This is the bit that was failing. So it's calling this remote method get year for this thing. And in the response, it says status. Oh, let me expand this. It gave me a message that says your account is inactive. Check your API key and try again. Now, when I set up this demo org, it didn't give me any information about this API key and what it meant, and that's why it was failing. And because I was trying this multiple times, you can see every time I do this, it's creating new logs here to tell me, and I was just not looking at the right place. I was looking at the other way around. This was for the first step, second step, and this is the bit where it's failing for these things. Okay, so I can just look in here and say, oh, this was, and I can also look at the request data that was sent, which was nothing here in this case. The remote options that I've set here. So I'm guessing I didn't set the API key somewhere. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to set it because I didn't build this, but at least I know that it's failing because of that API key here. Okay.
Is this the only place where we can check the debug logs, or we can set up the debug logs as well as we do for other Apex classes or something?
So if you want to write to those debug logs, typically what you would do is you would say system.debug and put a debug message. So for that, you'd have to write Apex logs. So if this is calling Apex, then yes, for your errors. Now, Velocity itself generates Apex, at least the managed package used to. So you could switch that on, but I didn't find them very useful because it would create a lot of tool-related logging in debug log. So if you open the developer console and be on that log page in developer console, you will see the logs, but you'll have to do a lot of work to find the actual error that's happening. But typically, you would need to do you would find the error message immediately over here when you're working with OmniScript in preview mode.
We did thank you, didn't we, for putting your time and effort into being with us this evening. I'm sorry if I didn't.